And the last thing I hear is that people don't feel like we are aggressive enough, that we're too timid
Well, yeah,
sometimes.
you're not.
Like,
Yeah, you're not. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah. I
I
think
mean, when you start this term with, "Oh, we're going to take our bipartisan swords and turn them into, take our take our partisan swords and turn them into bipartisan plowshares," I'm like,
yeah.
okay, good
But
luck
yeah,
with that.
exactly. But we're hearing all of that, and I think it's important to listen and be responsive. But it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be important, and that's what I try to do every day.
So, just unpacking a little bit more on the whole MAGA piece. I think I've reached the point where I don't give a shit anymore. I'm sorry. I'm not wasting time or intelligence to explain shit that's obvious. I'm not going to sit here and help you appreciate the fact that if you require the Social Security office where your grandmama lives to close, that she's now going to have to put her ass in a cab or car and go 20 miles or 30 miles or more, especially if she lives in a rural community, to get the services she needs because, oops, after all that time and energy and frustration you spent teaching her how to use the internets, she can no longer use it to get her Social Security benefits. Or she can't dial the number that you've programmed into the phone to call directly to the agent who was handling her matters because that agent's been fired and that office is closed. So I'm not going to explain that to you because you're an intelligent human being living in the 21st century in a country that has blessed you with everything under the sun. And yet you seem to think that this individual who's ordered all of those negative things to happen, and we haven't even turned into what's happening to farmers and small business owners because of the tariffs. We'll get to that in a moment. But just on the things that impact the education of your children, the health care of yourself and your family, and the ability of you to enjoy the fruits of your labor without the oppressive oversight of the federal government, I can't help you understand that if you don't at this point. So this whole grievance mentality that Republicans, now MAGA, have whined about for years, Congressman, trust me, I've been in the room listening to the bitching about what everybody's doing to them. And I'm like, well, we're the party of free markets and free enterprise and free spirit. We go out, we don't let that get in our way. We plow through that. Oh, what they're doing to us on college campuses. Oh, what they're doing. We can't go speak without being interrupted and people throwing things and yelling at. Okay, I get that. I understand that. All right. But now you want to control universities? You want to tell institutions that they can't, who they can hire and who they can't. Could you imagine Barack Obama telling one of the conservative universities out there, and they do exist, friends, they're out there, that I'm sorry, you can only hire teachers that are professors that we approve of? I mean, or you have to, you can't have these programs on conservative ideas and viewpoints because it's an anathema to what we believe in. No, you wouldn't stand for it. So I can't explain that to people anymore. God bless you for doing it. That's what you're hired to do. I get it. But at a certain level, and this is the challenge I think the Democrats face, at a certain level, you just have to stop splaining because they don't want to hear it. And that was evident in the response that you got to some of what you were saying, that they were still trying to make the excuse. They were still looking to blame someone for their circumstance or situation. And at a certain point where you sit there and you just go, why are you taking this point of view when you know that that's not truth, when you know that's not the circumstances in your own household? Because you were getting these benefits and these services. you weren't complaining as a farmer when you were getting those subsidies from the Farm Bill. You weren't complaining about the socialism that came with your Social Security check or your Medicaid or Medicare payments. So how do you work that space with intelligence and grace in the face of people who, after everything that they've come to see, learn, and experience of the last 10 years, still believe the 2020 election was stolen, still believe the worst economy in the history of the country was under the last 4 years of Joe Biden, as they're sitting here watching their 401k shrivel, the price of eggs not go down but continue to rise. And now, because of the tariffs, everything else that they even want to think about having in their household costing way more money because the idiocracy has put a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the country.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think yes.
There it is.
Good question. I think look, I think a lot of people get their news from very narrow sources right now. And that happens on both sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of us just watch Michael Steele on SMBC, right? And some folks just watch the other side, Newsmax,
Yeah.
Fox News, whatever it is, and the news that they're getting tries to tell a different picture and is certainly never critical of the administration. So when they come into an argument or a conversation with me, they're coming in with a different slant or sometimes even different facts. And, I just have to, point out what I believe is the right thing, right? And I have to point out the facts, really. So if they come in and say, well, these high prices and these aren't because of the tariffs, it's because Biden let a bunch of immigrants across the border and
right,
the immigrants raised the prices. Right. And, I just have to say to them, does that make sense to you? What did the immigrants do? Why can't we just agree that when you put a tariff on something, it's going to increase the price? And you tell me whether that's worth it to try to build supposedly manufacturing this country.
I would ask some real
logic.
I would ask them real quick, Congressman. Okay, so you say that these high prices are because immigrants came across the border. They're paying those prices too. So you think they came to this country just to jack prices up on things that otherwise would be cheaper?
This is a real conversation I had, and I'll just say that I just told them, let's agree to disagree, and I've said that many times. But
you have.
But what I try to do is find some kind of common ground, and just try to win them over anyway, and just say, if you let me know if you want a better alternative, that one exists, and we're here, and I'm here to fight for you too, even if you don't agree with me, and just kind of leave it at that, because it's early right now. It's still April. The president just got elected. I still think there's a honeymoon period happening. And I think as people see their 401ks continue to shrink, as they see prices go up, as they see their businesses or farms start to suffer because no one wants to do business with the U.S., they can't do business abroad. I think that's going to add up. And I think they're going to realize this isn't just a coincidence, that this administration is not on the right path when it comes to all the issues they care about.
So the tariffs are a big play. Obviously, they have rattled the markets, continue to rattle the markets. You have the piece that I mentioned recently, just a moment ago, the recent efforts to shut down Harvard University, which is a placeholder for other universities in which the president wants to do the same. Again, folks, that arc of retribution, this is included in that. This is nothing anyone in this country should be surprised about, because Donald Trump is nothing if not consistent as a megalomaniac to tell you what he's going to do, because he believes he's so full of himself that he has to share that. And he does, because he doesn't believe, and I've heard this from him, he doesn't believe you can stop him. Okay. All right. So that's where we come in. That's where individuals like you come in. And which is why it's been so disappointing in so many respects to see so many in Congress just sit idly by as more and more power is stripped away from the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. I just don't understand, Democrat and Republican alike. While we can pitch a bitch over a lot of things on policy, our power should not be something we're willing to concede. I mean, it's one thing if it's power that's benevolently given to you by a king or a chief executive. No, it's given to you by this little document here called the Constitution. And this is where it resides, right? These powers that are yours specifically. What is it that you've learned in this time, in the short time you've been in Congress, which you probably learned a lot about that aspect of the willingness to just say, okay, yeah, the president can just strip mine these agencies that we fund, that we stood up as Congresses in the past, that we should be funding as Congresses in the future. But Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Doge thinks that they're irrelevant to the service of government, and therefore he has decided to fire all these people, to shut down these agencies and these departments. And the Republican leadership, and I'm not asking you to answer for the Republican leadership because there is no answer for that. Okay, we'll agree on that up front. There's no answer for that. But there has to have been, or must be, somewhere in some bowel, somewhere in the building, Republicans and Democrats going, okay, fellas, ladies, what do we do to get this back on the right track? Maybe there isn't. I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah. Look, I'm a guy named Suhas Subramaniam. I come from an immigrant family. I never expected to be in Congress. It's kind of still a little surreal that I am in this position. And so I look at it as this privilege I have and this megaphone I have. And so why not use it? And I think maybe some folks have been here a long time, and at a certain point they just feel like it's not worth fighting over everything, and this goes in cycles. Right. I don't know what it is, but to me, I was told during my orientation that we can speak on the House floor pretty much every time we're in session and have a vote. And so I just kind of go to the House floor, and sometimes I don't even know what I'm about to talk about because there's so much to talk about, and I just start talking. And it's so
your comms person is going, Congressman, what are you going to say? I don't know. I won't know till I start.
The last time I went up there, I actually didn't know what I was going to say yet. And, I just kind of worked on a speech while I was waiting for other people to finish and then went up there and spoke. But I feel a responsibility and feel this privilege to use the little power I have to kind of help people feel empowered. And I think that's what has confused me sometimes is, why isn't everyone using this power, both sides of the aisle, both chambers? Well, why wouldn't you do everything you can in this moment? So, obviously a lot of people are doing a lot of things, but to me, I look at it as an opportunity to really just get up there and use these fancy new tools I have to just tell stories that people are telling me. I think we've gotten 20,000 emails and more than 5,000 calls, and we answer them all. And then what I do is the staffers that look at those emails, I ask them to compile just stories of the week. And sometimes I'll just go into a hearing and I'll just say, hey, you're talking about the FDA right now. Let me tell you about this person who works at the FDA and their story. And I find that that's actually quite powerful. Even Republicans after hearings have told me, wow, that was a very powerful story. They didn't change their vote, but at least we're starting to hit a chord there.
Right.
So I just I'm new. I don't know. Maybe the fact that I don't know like the right procedure or protocol is helping me.
Right.
But to me, it's just about giving people a voice, making people feel like they're not helpless and that they have a say. And even if we're in the minority, that we can be an opposition party, right? So I think that this is all important, and I want to give people that chance.
I love it. All right, guys, take care.